So, how does a story written, over 150 years ago still feel so incredibly relevant today? Well, we're going to find out. We're breaking down Charles Dickens's absolute masterpiece, A Tale of Two Cities, a truly timeless story about revolution, love, and one of the biggest sacrifices you'll ever read about. You've probably heard this line before, right? It's got to be the most famous opening in all of literature, and for a really good reason. This one sentence just nails the whole vibe of the era Dickens is talking about, an age of wild contradictions. But it's more than just a setup. It's the core idea of the whole novel, this concept that hope and total despair, good and evil, can exist at the exact same time, in the same place, and even inside the same person. So what does he really mean by the best and worst of times? To get a handle on the story, we've got to understand the world it's set in. And this isn't a tale of one city, it's two. The whole novel jumps between two cities that could not be more different. Over in London, you've got something that looks like order, but it's an uneasy peace. You can feel the tension. But then you hop across the channel to Paris, and whoa, it's a powder keg. Years and years of oppression by a cruel aristocracy have pushed everyday people right to the edge. And that tension, that's what's about to set this whole story on fire. Now, against this massive historical backdrop, Dickens zooms in on a deeply personal story. So let's meet the key players who are all caught up in this crazy web of secrets and fate. First up, we've got Dr. Alexander Manette. Just imagine this. For 18 long years, he was a political prisoner, locked away in the infamous Bastille. Just gone. Everyone assumed he was dead. So when he's finally released, he's a completely shattered man. He just compulsively makes shoes. It's a skill he learned in solitary to keep from going insane. He is, quite literally, recalled to life by the love of his daughter, Lucie. Next, there's Charles Darnay. Now, by birth, he's a French aristocrat, but he's totally turned his back on his family's cruel and awful legacy. He's living in England now, just trying to be a good person, but he's got this huge secret hanging over him. He's actually part of the hated Evermond family, and that secret is like a shadow, just waiting to pull him back into all the chaos. And then we meet Sidney Carton. This guy. He is a brilliant, incredibly sharp lawyer, but he's also a complete mess. Deeply cynical, self-destructive. He just wastes his talent. He knows he could be great, but he feels like his life is completely pointless. He's a really fascinating, tragic character. So what connects these two guys, Darnay the nobleman and Carton the lawyer? Well, here's the kicker. They look exactly alike. It's uncanny. And trust me, this is not just some random detail. It is the absolute key plot point that the entire climax of the book hinges on. All right, so all these personal secrets and dramas, they don't exist in a bubble. The lives of our characters are about to collide head-on with this storm of history, because the French Revolution is about to explode. And what starts as this righteous fight for justice and freedom, well, it spirals into chaos, and it spirals fast. The suffering people of Paris finally rise up, but their desire for revenge twists the whole thing into a reign of terror. The guillotine becomes this horrifying symbol of a new, incredibly violent kind of order. At the dark heart of all this vengeance is Madame Defarge. She just sits there, quietly knitting, but she's not making scarves, she's encoding a secret hit list into her knitting, a registry of everyone the revolution plans to destroy. And on that list, the name Evermond, Charles Darnay's family. She is the embodiment of cold, patient, and absolutely relentless revenge. This collision of personal history and public rage is what brings us to the novel's absolutely breathtaking and emotional climax. Drawn back to Paris out of a sense of duty, Charles Darnay is immediately arrested just for being an aristocrat. The secret's out. The revolutionaries, spurred on by Madame Defarge, sentence him to death. For Darnay and his family, it really seems like all hope is completely gone. But this is where everything changes. Sidney Carton, the man who was convinced his life was worthless, he finally sees his chance for redemption. Fueled by this deep, selfless love for Lucie Manette, who is Darnay's wife, he uses their uncanny resemblance to come up with a wild, daring plan. He's going to switch places with Darnay in prison. He will sacrifice himself to save the man Lucie loves. Carton's sacrifice, it's one of the most famous moments in all of literature. So let's just step back for a second and look at why this story, published way back in 1859, still hits so hard today. Well, the novel is just packed with these huge, timeless ideas. It digs into how an act of sacrifice can lead to ultimate redemption. It makes you question that razor-thin line between justice and pure vengeance. And through it all, it's about the power of love and compassion. But maybe the most powerful theme of all is resurrection and rebirth. And this theme of rebirth is woven through the entire story once you start looking for it. I mean, think about it. Dr. Manette is literally recalled to life from the living death of the Bastille. Charles Darnay is saved from the guillotine. He's given a whole new life with his family. And Sidney Carton? In his final moments, he achieves this profound spiritual rebirth, finally finding the purpose he looked for his whole life through that one ultimate sacrifice. And all this brings us to a final, pretty big question. Through this one selfless act, does this cynical, self-destructive man become one of literature's greatest tragic heroes? It's a powerful idea to think about, that a life that felt completely wasted can find its ultimate meaning in a single moment of extraordinary courage and love. Thanks for joining us for this look inside a classic.